today we're going to go ahead and get these heads complete. So as you can tell, we have everything done on the combustion side. So we've got our new valves and all that stuff. Everything's lapped, everything's back together. So what we're going to do is we're going to show you. We're going to do it on the table, but I'll explain. You can do this on your bike if you ever decide you want to check your valves, or if you have to go ahead and adjust them. This is a shim and then a bucket over a shim design. So you've got your shim sit usually right in here. Then you got a bucket. Then you got the cams on top. So we're going to go ahead and show you that in the manual. It tells you what your valve clearances are. So you have your low end and you have your high end. So the intake is 0.09 millimeters to 0.16. The exhaust is 0.20 millimeters to 0.3. And then it shows you the orientation of how your cams have to be. Now, if you do it on the bike, obviously, you're going to rotate, pull your spark plugs out, and you're going to rotate your crank until you get to this. We're going to show doing it on the table since it's much easier for us, since there's no need to put them in the bike right now. So I will be back shortly after we go ahead and get the cams back in with the buckets, the shims, and the keepers and all that. We'll get the cams set up in the right orientation. Then we'll go ahead and use a feeler gauge, and we're going to show you what we do. We write everything down in a specific order, and then you do a little bit of math, and that'll show you what your shim needs to change to if it's out of range, whether it's on the loose or whether it's on the tight side. One thing I do want to mention is you always want to head towards the looser side if you have to, like that 0.09. This design, they tend to get tighter, if at all. They don't get looser. So, if you're to the point where you have a choice and you could be like, say, 0.10 on the intake, which should be 0.09 is the lowest, or 0.16, you want to gravitate towards the 0.16 side, knowing you're going to be within spec, but if it ever gets any tighter, it should still stay within spec to a point, and then obviously you can check them later. So we'll be back after we get this set up. All right, so what I've got here is we just got a quick sheet that we're going to fill out, and we're going to show you exactly how you find out whether your valves are going to be within spec. Okay, so we're going to start on the intake side right here, and as I said, the clearance on those is 0.09 to 0.16. So what we're going to do is we're going to slide in these gauges, and what you want to feel is kind of like a slight drag. So Larry started off with a 0.157. Watch your hand. And that one is tight. Yep. So both of those on the intake are tight. So now what we're going to do is we're going to move down to the next one, which is, I believe, a 0.12 something. 0.127. 0.127. So I'm going to see if I can show you kind of him getting in there, because you can see right there the cam lobe. And he's basically going to just kind of get right in there. Mm-hmm. Okay. He's just trying to get right in there and see what that clearance is. Okay, so that feels a little tight on the 0.127. So what he's going to do is he's going to move down to the next one, which is a 0.10. All you need to do at this point is you need to just find out what that number is.
It's moving, but 0.09 might be better.
Okay.
But it's good.
All right. So what is the number for each one of these? That's going to be your intake one.
This would be a 0.10.
Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to write down right here for the clearance on that one, 0.10. And then how about the second one?
I'm doing that now.
Okay, so I got them reversed then. This is intake one.
This is one.
This is two. This is one. So, yeah, so this one here actually needs to be a 0.10. And let's go ahead and look at that one again. What's that one there?
This one is very loose at a 0.10.
Okay.
0.127. Feels pretty nice.
Okay.
So let's try 0.15.
All right, so we're going to try the next size up on the gauge, which is a 0.157. My guess is that's going to be tight.
I'm favoring the 0.15 better than the 1.2.
Okay, so the 0.15.
Yep.
Okay, so Larry has that as a 0.15. Now, keeping in mind, 0.15 puts us on the looser end of the 0.16 millimeter, which is fine. As long as you're within that range, you prefer to be looser than tighter because these do tighten over time. They'll never loosen. So I'm going to check this intake off as completely done. And intake 2, we're going to work on that in a little while. Now Larry's going to end up going to the exhaust side. Okay, so we made some adjustments. It's actually, this one's in spec on the left. This one's a 0.09. We don't have a gauge as 0.09. We have a 0.102. But it drags, but it's a little tight. So we're going to start with 0.09, and we'll go to the next step after we do the exhaust side. So Larry's going to start the exhaust side. Now, keep in mind, your spec is 0.20 to 0.30 millimeters. We're going to go ahead and talk about our findings here. I'm a firm believer that I messed the shims up in the order, and we were playing with some stuff earlier. But let's just start with the intake. We checked off intake 1, 0.15. That puts us right in spec on the loose side, which is where we want to be. The intake 2 is a 0.09 is what our clearance showed on our gauge. And being a 0.09, that is right on the tightest side of spec. Don't want to leave it there because over time these tighten. We're looking closer to the middle to 0.16. Now, your shims have numbers on it, which is what I showed you before. And I'll show you another one right here. And you can also use like a caliper to do it. I'm going to see if I can show it. See, there's like a 278 shim, okay? So the lower the number gives you more clearance. So we have a 2.9. Now, we're 0.09 on that intake on the tight side. We want to go up to 0.16 towards that way. So really all you have to do is look at it and say, okay, well, what's 0.16 millimeters minus the 0.09? It's really 0.07. So we're going to add a 0.05 shim, and we're going to go down on that number to give us more clearance. So that 2.90 is going to become a 2.85 shim, and that should put us right around 0.13-ish in the millimeters on that clearance and well within spec. Looking at the exhaust side, definitely way too tight, and I think that's more of us playing with the shims earlier because I think they were 2.8s, not 2.9. So that 0.178 and that 0.152 are way tight, and I know for a fact that it wasn't this way. It was just us. But you look at the 0.20 millimeter to 0.30 millimeter. So let's start with exhaust 1. We got a 0.178. So if we do a 2.8 shim taking off 0.10, that's adding 0.10 clearance to that 0.178. That would give us 0.278 right within spec on the looser side, which is what we want. Same here. It's a 0.152. We'll go ahead and make that a 2.8 as well. And that'll put us around 0.252, right dead smack in the middle of that. Then we'll go back and check it. Okay, guys, so we've gone ahead and changed all the shims. We put the cam keeper back in, and we checked them already, and they're perfect, but we're going to just show you. Larry's going to go into the intake one and just show you that it's...
Feels very, very smooth going in. And
yeah, you can see it right there.
No slop whatsoever.
Exactly, and you can check this one over here. Intake 1 is going to be the same thing. You can see him. There you go. You can see it sliding. Just a tiny bit of drag in there. So we're done. Yeah. The valves are adjusted on this, and we're ready to put the cylinders on with the pistons and all that stuff, and then get these heads on. We finished up the heads, and today is jug day. Not the kind of jugs you're hoping for, but all good. So we have gone in, and we have now honed these. It's hard to really show you, but they're crosshatched now. They were crosshatched before, but they had a lot of shiny spots in them. These are Nicocel, but we just cleaned them, and now we're getting ready to spray them down with stuff called Tri-Flow just to hold them until we get them on the bike. Make sure they don't oxidize, but you can see the cross hatching in there. So they're looking pretty good. So we still have to clean off all the old gasket, the gasket that sits between the jug and the head. So we're going to go ahead and knock that out soon and get the pistons on and get these in place and then work our way up. Pardon the hurricane force winds. We have the shop fan going again. We do this even though we've done this many times. We go through the manual. We actually mark the pistons because you got to clock these rings. So if you look right here, you've got all the rings sitting here. We're going to put them on both pistons, and then we're going to get that right up in this motor, and we will get those jugs in place. So we've gone ahead and we've got the front piston in, and the front jug's on. And tomorrow we're going to go ahead and we'll go ahead and, I always double check. Larry and I both will double check those rings. Larry more than me. But we'll go ahead and get those done. And, this motor gets all new gaskets. So go ahead and pull that one off for the tensioner. So we'll get those ready. But tomorrow we're going to go ahead and get the rear jug on. We're going to get both heads on and get the cams in, time them, and valve covers. Really, I mean, that's pretty much it. We're done. I mean, we're down to the last hour of stuff on this thing for the most part, maybe an hour and a half. So if all goes well, tomorrow afternoon this motor is going to be completely done. I'll go ahead and soak the new clutch tomorrow, and I'll go ahead and put that on the following day, and we'll go ahead and get the bike ready to go ahead and put it in. So that's where we're at, So just taking our time through it. It's been unbearable heat. We've been having to wait for parts. This thing is just, like I said quite a few times, actually, this is a full-blown rebuild. I mean, it is everything, and a lot of time cleaning it. And, normal second gear, yeah, it's like a 3-week thing. It's not a big deal. A little longer if I'm waiting on the transmission. But for this guy right here, we've got so many parts. I mean, I showed you in earlier videos. So it's just taking a little longer than expected, but I don't really care because I know it's going to be badass when we get done with this thing. So anyway, thanks for watching this video, and we'll see you guys on the next part.